With over 500,000 trees and shrubs already planted and growing, it's easy to forget you are in the city. We don't just say, we do. It's the Stain City way.
Good evening and welcome to Real Talk right here on SABC 3. The stage is yours. Gender, sexuality and identity are things that a lot of people think they understand, but do we really? These topics are tough to tackle because there are a lot of facets to consider, there are a lot of pressures at play, and there's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen as a result of how we have been conditioned. Today on Real Talk, we're going to tackle all of it. Now, a while ago, Cameron Mudisiana joined us as a guest on our show to discuss gender roles in relationships, and a lot of you were not happy with what he had to say. So later he'll be here and we're going to have a discussion and he'll answer to Crit around that. But first, she's a professor in the School of Education at UKZN. She is an author of several books, including Gender and Childhood Sexuality in Primary School. She's also considered a pioneer in the study of childhood sexualities with her work, having contributed to policy and legislative decisions. Please welcome onto the show Professor Divya Bana to Real Talk. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
It's always nice to have somebody smart in here.
Thank you.
So listen, quickly, I remember, I think it must have been 3.5 years ago. So I'm emceeing Mr. Gay South Africa, right? So I get on stage and, you know, obviously, hello, how are you? You know, there's a top 12, you know, 12 of the hottest gay men in South Africa, or as me and my girls would like to say, what a waste, right? So people laugh, we tweet that, but there was such a lot of backlash. And for the longest time, I didn't understand why, especially the gay community would be upset. So tell me why I was wrong to do and say that.
Well, I guess it's the way in which the heteronormative environment operates, through which gay, lesbians, however we call them, are regarded as other and different. And because the idea is that men, boys, are expected to be in love with and like girls of the opposite sex. And so this plays out in how our own responses, your tweet, for instance, is a slip-up and an example of what a waste.
So it was very wrong of me to say that.
Well, indeed, because it shows and it indicates the level at which we're so, as you stated, so conditioned, so we have such dominant views that men are expected to be heterosexual.
So in me saying what a waste, it's almost like I am assuming, right, that that's what they're supposed to do, and just because now we cannot, you know, be in the line of object of affection, so it's a waste for us. So that's why it's wrong.
Well, I guess even the word waste, it completely denigrates and denies the right to express sexuality, which is non-normative, which is different from your own.
Okay, I hear you, and I apologize for that. Now I hear you. All right, so let's talk. You say that a lot of gender, sexuality, and identity is literally the DNA of it is built when you're still a child, right? And this is why, and the way we act today, be it in the patriarchy and the violence and the sexual violence, can be linked back to childhood. Can you unpack that a little for us?
So I guess for the last 20 years, I've been doing research with children between the ages of 6 and 18.
Yeah.
And one of the most profound findings is certainly that children, even as young as 6, express sexuality. They already have ideas about what it means to be a boy, what it means to be a girl. Indeed, even at age 6 and 7, ideas around gays and lesbians as being a waste have already been foregrounded in their thinking. So there's so much to be done in terms of addressing children under the age of 10, and in our country, unfortunately, we seem to think that children are simply innocent of sexuality. you know, another key argument that I've been making following several other researchers is that 8 might be too late to intervene. Indeed, it's not just at 6 that young children start developing ideas around sexuality, but from, you know, fetal age, you know, so it's a lifelong project.
Yeah. Now, Professor, when we look at sexual education, all right, I do believe you're right. We're starting it way too late. You know, at schools, it's 13 years old, it's 12 years old. That's way late in life. But I feel like we're quite linear in our approach because we are doing the sexual education of a man, you know, and a woman, and then the sexual act there. How should we be, you know, broadening those horizons, especially at such a time like this? Because I do feel like there's a revolution happening in terms of how we think and they are learning. What else should we be discussing with children as early as 6 years old?
So clearly I like your word revolution. We need a revolution of thought in terms of how young people are being, how they learn about sexuality, what they learn about sexuality. The problem is that even heterosexuality, in terms of learning about heterosexual sex, for instance, is indeed underground.
Yeah, it's birds and bees. You like, guys, come on.
Birds and bees, because parents and adults and religious communities and organizations and broader societal institutions really struggle with addressing sex with children, even with teenagers. Now,
even from adult to adult.
Even from adult to adult.
Which is why even couples struggle to have an honest conversation about sex.
Even saying the word sex is difficult for many parents, for teachers. Just to say sex is really difficult. So imagine how difficult it might be for adults who cannot even approach the issue around heterosex, to then approach the issue around sex and alternate forms of sexuality. So that, to me, is something that we need to grapple with. We are obliged to do so. And we need to be able to address issues that really matter to young children.
So what would you say is the pressing issue of what matters to young children?
Well, what matters is what they say matters. And what they say matters is that sex is pleasure. And that despite the idea that all our education and teaching around sexuality and religious beliefs around danger, avoidance, and abstinence, children and young people are certainly invested in discourses of love, of romance, and sex is indeed motivated by pleasure, the way it is a motivation in many adult relationships. So we need to be able to break the boundary, build this revolution around ensuring honesty, facts to what really matters to them.
Cisgender, non-binary, pansexuality, these are all words that have become part of our modern vocabulary, but if you don't know what these mean, you could find yourself in awkward situations that expose your ignorance. We're learning and unlearning about sexuality and identity today, and you can join in on the conversation with your 20-second voice note. Send it through to our WhatsApp line. I'll be sure to grab it. We'll be coming back after this. Welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. So in 1948, Dr. Alfred Kinsey gained notoriety through his attempts to measure sexual orientation with what's become known as the Kinsey scale. But over time, the scale received credit for limiting sexual orientation to only heterosexuality and homosexuality. Sexual orientation exists on a wide spectrum that we now know encompasses much more than that. We're still in conversation as we learn more about sexuality and identity with Professor Divya Bana. Prof, please explain the differences to me between gender identity, gender expression, and gender orientation.
So there are various ways in which one could identify, as you stated very clearly, that there were criticism against having this binary between homosexuality and heterosexuality. But sexuality is fluid. And what you've just asked around these gender expression, gender identity, is the ways in which sexuality is fluid. So one might express a heterosexual performance in one instance, but one could also be other kinds of, perform other kinds of sexuality. So we are not fixed in terms of who we are as sexual beings. And so I guess these expressions, the vocabulary that you've just used, tries to unpack that fluidity that we see in human life.
But what then if I say, but that just sounds like you're confused? And is it possible? Because I get that crit a lot with people when someone says I'm bisexual. They're like, no, you're just confused. Is it normal for me not to know what my orientation is?
Why do we have to fix who we are? In whose interest does it serve to fix a human being in terms of their sexuality? What purpose does it serve when somebody can say, well, I am bisexual, and mean it? It doesn't fit your heteronormative gaze. It doesn't fit what you've been conditioned.
So they're not the problem, I am.
Yes.
It is me that is scared of the unknown, because I can't box you. I'm the one who's fearful and not necessarily that person.
Indeed, we're still developing the vocabulary to try and capture this broadness around sexuality.
So a lot of parents watch the show, and I always take the time to educate parents, because we must also remember we're in different generations. So what I find fluid and easy and makes sense to me, I have to explain to my dad, because he was also conditioned and grown, raised in a certain way. So when it comes to identifying your child's sexuality, as a parent, I'm told that you see it very early. If your child isn't homosexual or if they're heterosexual, but the fear in you is then what's going to determine how you then raise them, right? So you could be like, great, my son, be my daughter, be who you want, or you could clamp down on it to try and change it. So where is the danger? What should we be doing as parents to ensure that our children are growing up in a fluid environment where they can choose who they are?
Well, I guess that's one of the biggest difficulties when parental choice is based on the dominant norm. And it is extremely difficult to ensure that children's rights are indeed respected by presenting and, of course, ensuring that their choices are respected. So when people undergo gender assignment, when children undergo gender assignment very early in life, it is often the parents are choosing a heterosexual orientation.
That's what they know.
That's what they know, and that's what they approve of. Remember, there's a huge deal of stigma around the presentation of sexualities that do not fit into what religious orthodoxies would require, what communities, societies, what schools, what teachers,
what corporates
require.
Yeah.
So there's a huge deal of stigma to date, despite South Africa's very progressive policies in terms of accepting the fluidity.
So I remember reading a tweet where, and it hit me hard, and this is why I still remember it, where it was a homosexual man, and he was saying that, he grew up, obviously, as a family, watching TV with your parents, and every time there were gays on TV, gays or lesbians, the parents would be very insulting towards him, and he knew he was gay. So he says, how do you deal with that when you know that what loves you doesn't love all of you, because now you're hiding who you are? So when you are in that environment as a child and you know who you are, but you can see that your parents are not for it, what are your steps?
So I guess, part of my research suggests the real trauma of coming out as a child. At what stage is it appropriate? At what stage do you feel safe enough to come out? Indeed, sexualities that are alternate are really underground, especially when you're a child. And I think that it is this example that you've just presented that makes it so difficult to come out at home, in families, to come out at school. So where is the safe place? And therefore, the different kinds of sexualities, transgender, cisgender, really, even being heterosexual is very difficult to come out, even in schools and in families, because parents and teachers expect innocent. They expect you not to be engaged sexually.
So you should not even be sexual, let alone picking what your sexual orientation is, which is actually the problem.
Exactly.
That is the problem. Prof, there is a voice note. Please have a listen and see if you can give us insight.
Sure, I'm actually one of your sister's friends, Zama, and I'm a trans female living in Cape Town, South Africa. Could you delve, maybe especially for the audience, delve into what it means to be transgender and how that relates to partners in terms of sexuality, because I think it's an important point.
The whole focus on transgender is, I guess, on a global scale, is now increasing in terms of research. In South Africa, we still think again in terms of heterosexuality, homosexuality, or heterosexuality in gays and lesbians. The Caster Semenya was a really good example of the variations in sexuality. So there are expectations in terms of transgendered about are you a man? Are you a female? How, you know, it horrifies the heterosexual dominant society. And one of the key issues that, you know, the kind of terror, invokes terror is, so how do they have sex? So those are the kinds of questions that seem to plague people in terms of acceptance of the broader community around sexual orientation, including transgendered.
Okay, so questions like that, how do you have sex? I don't think we should be asking those questions.
Well,
because the fact that there are many variations to be having sex when you are in a heterosexual relationship and you're not just out there discussing them at a boardroom table means I don't think you should be asking those questions. Am I right? Am I sensitive?
So one of the questions that, for instance, parents and teachers would ask is, so how do I teach my child, you know, the question you posed about homosexuality. I find that completely offensive, for instance, because what do I teach them? And so the idea underlying this fear is, what do you tell them about how to do sex, especially when it concerns a kind of sexuality that you do not approve of.
Or know of.
Or know of, exactly. So I guess it's a great deal of ignorance. And of course, related to that is the strongly held belief that children should also be innocent. So ignorant and innocent.
Prof, listen, I liked something you said earlier. You said this is a revolution, and this is why we're having these conversations, because we are in the eye of the revolution, and we're the ones who will determine the conversations that will happen. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
You are absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, like I said, to Professor Divya Bana for joining us on this all-important discussion on sexuality and identity. Coming up next, she is the model and trans activist who plans to educate and change the world one YouTube vlog at a time. Glo Makatsi joins us after the break. Welcome back here with Real Talk on SABC 3. So imagine living 65 years of your life feeling like you were born in the wrong body. Well, that is what we came to understand about retired Olympic gold medal winning decathlete and American personality Caitlyn Jenner. The world watched as Caitlyn publicly announced her name change from Bruce Jenner in a Vanity Fair cover story in 2015. Some were confused and asked questions, others commended her bravery, while a fair amount took issue with the misrepresentation that transitioning is an easy process. There are many South Africans who can relate to parts of Caitlyn's journey, and one such individual is transgender activist Glo Makatsi, who joins us now. Glo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So, you know, when I was thinking of this today, I realized that yes, Caitlyn Jenner's journey was very glamorized, right? But I guess that's Hollywood, so we can't hate on that part. But now you can sit here and you can tell me, is it an easy is it as easy as it was made to look when we saw it?
No, definitely not, because like I'm a stigmatized person, like my identity is stigmatized, so wherever I go, there's always like a certain gaze that I receive. So it's not like that. Caitlin has like a house in the hills, so it's not the same. I have to like walk in the street, meet people every day, and
So it's
engage
something
with
you
them.
deal with every day.
Every single day.
The questioning of your identity.
Not the questioning of my identity, no.
Yeah.
That's something I'm certain about, to be honest.
No,
with
questioning
you.
from the gazers, right?
Oh, yes, yes. They always
What
even, like-
is she? What is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always sexualized. The people are always looking for my boobs. Like, where are the boobs? Because like you have your hair, but where are the boobs? And like, why do I need to have boobs to be female? Like,
I want to take you back to your 13-year-old self, right? So you come out
Yes.
of the closet to your sister.
Yes.
And then she says, we always knew
Yeah.
and we'll always love you.
Yes.
And then you were a boy and you were coming out as gay.
Yes.
And then your mom also then finds out that you are saying that you're gay. And she asks you, do you want to change?
Yes.
Do you want to change what?
Do I want to change to be a girl? Because like when she framed that question, it was like, okay, you're gay. She had such limited understanding that she was like, okay, wait, so does this mean you're gay, you want to change and be a girl? So you can see there's such limited knowledge there. And then I was like, well, she had this look on her face, I have to be honest, and I feel like that could have changed the direction of like where my life could have led to if she was like softer and more embracing and like, so do you want to change? Like just gentle.
But isn't it forward thinking for her to even ask that? Because if my son had to come out to me and say, Mom, I'm gay, I just assume, okay, you are a boy who's telling me they like boys. Great, my son, go date boys. But to go as far as to be like, do you feel like you're in the wrong body? Why didn't you take it like that?
Well, honestly, it's because I had limited people represented for me to be able to see myself and be reflected in. So having that, I only came across like transgender people at an older age. And those ones that I'd come across when I was younger were always stigmatized or made funny of. I'm thinking of Ecomesh right now. And like, you know, it's difficult.
Do you know what I don't want to say I feel sorry for because you definitely don't need my pity, right?
No, I don't.
And what you need is my understanding and to be fair, just to be left alone.
Yeah,
you know,
justice.
just leave us alone so we can do our thing. How does one exist in a corporate space? For instance, if somebody walks on a plane and the pilot is transgender, you know, you've never thought of those things because you've never seen it. So as an activist, you know, what are you saying to us? What is it that we must do?
What I'm basically saying is that, like, stop ostracizing us.
Yeah.
Like, we're just like any other person. Honestly, I'm just trying to create representation by just being me, because, like, a lot of times people don't know trans people because there's no representation. So it still goes back to the same issues. And, like, all I'm trying to say is, like, give us screen time, give us shows, give us whatever it is that we need in order for us to be seen as equals, because we are equals. That's a fact.
Okay, so you moved to Cape Town because you said you felt like, oh, Cape Town is gay friendly, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, let me go there so I can feel, you know, not ostracized. And this is when you were still a boy.
Yeah.
And gay. But you were depressed. Why were you depressed?
Well, because, like, gay still wasn't it. I was just not, it just did not speak to who I really am. So I got there, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna be gay, live my life, be honest with myself, and find a boyfriend, hopefully be happy, you know? And no. Orcs. Crickets.
Orcs. So when do you make the decision to transition?
I came across my friends who were just such wonderful people that they made me see myself in a way that I'd never seen myself, in an honest, genuine way. And they saw that in me and allowed me to see it in myself. So this one time, this is how it started. So this one time I'm in the store with my friend and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really love this dress and I'd really like to buy it. And my friend's like, my friend uses they, them pronouns, non-binary. And they're like, you should get it, why don't you get it? That was like,
and you're like, but okay, I'm a boy, I'm gay, but I'm a boy, so I don't need to be wearing dresses.
Yes, because you know the understanding is like, okay, you're just gay, so you're just attracted to me.
So just dress as a boy, but you're allowed to like boys. Yeah. This is what society is telling you.
Yeah.
So you get the dress, and then from then on you
No, I didn't get the dress, actually, but that conversation opened, like, another space in me to be honest with myself that had never been opened before.
let's get down to the medicine of it. How easy, how inexpensive is it to be in South Africa transitioning?
Oh, it's very expensive.
So if you're poor, you can't transition?
Yeah. That's why it's good that we stress that just because you can't, or you don't have access to medication and you can't get your boobs done and actually come to fully see yourself as how you feel inside, doesn't mean you're any less of a woman. Because people have different financial means, and some people can afford to go through the whole process, some can't.
And where do you fall in that line?
Well, I am actually using the public health system to transition, which is inexpensive. It's much more accessible.
Yeah.
Just that you have to be in certain, I don't know, like metropolitan areas in order to access this. Like, I particularly use Chris Baragwanath Hospital.
All right, so what I love about what you said is that, you know, give us the platform, put us on the talk shows, hear us. You clearly know exactly what you're talking about because the voice notes are coming in fast and heavy with people wanting to interact with you. So we'll roll the first one that we have. Please, can you play it?
Hi, Anele. I'd like to know, is there a gene for homosexuality or heterosexuality? As an individual, what makes me decide or like the opposite sex or the same sex?
Is there a gene? I just need to understand that right. Just not everyone. She's asking, is there a gene in me that would make me a homosexual? What makes me decide that I like the same gender?
Boys or girls.
Yeah. Do you have an answer for that?
I don't know if there's a gene particularly, but I know it's definitely in like human history and like it's also observed in the animal kingdom as well. So I don't know.
You know, for me personally, because people want to track what makes people gay, what makes people, you know, transgender. I feel like you're born that way.
Yes, what makes people straight? I feel like we need to start asking the question,
I don't
what
think
makes
there's
you straight?
a big scientific explanation of, you know, like, you know, the Big Bang that happened. I just think people are born that way, and then they stifle to believe that they are otherwise something else. I don't think that, you know, there's any which way that you can change your child or change yourself. I think that's how you are. Just like I have Kiss Madolo, that's it. I'm born that way, and, you know, that's it. We've got another voice note.
Good evening. I'm a straight female, but while I was growing up, I used to enjoy playing with boys, and I was really attracted to girls. But as I was growing up during puberty, that faded away. I started getting attracted to boys. So I want to understand why that phase in my life happened. Thank you.
I think it goes back to that point you made about like sexuality is not just black and white. You go through stages, and it's not something that you get to and be like, okay, some people get to that and that's what it is. They become cisgender for the rest of their lives. Great, cool, straight, cisgender people. But it doesn't have to be the same journey for everybody.
Yeah, you don't have to label yourself. It's what the professor was also speaking about, that it's fluid. And you can allow it to be fluid, because as soon as you want to put it in a container, then it feels like, okay, I've picked this now, I must stick to it, even if it's no longer making me happy and recognizing who I am. Quickly before I let you go, you're an activist, right? What's your job? Because I also feel like you guys are so busy trying to educate ignorant people that you don't have time to actually have a career. What's your calling? What do you want to do? Don't you want to be a doctor or a pilot or something? I just feel like you must spend your life explaining
yourself.
Telling
people like, okay, I'm trans, and then everything is just about being trans. I know. But I actually have dreams of farming and being great as you are, to be honest with you.
Talk show?
Yeah, well, doesn't have to be a talk show. I mean, like,
but broadcasting,
media, TV, presenting, and commentary. I really love being in front of the camera, so that's the one thing I really love doing.
And that's something you're actively pursuing. Please, I love the fact that you're an activist, but please don't spend all of your time
activisting.
You know, activisting and trying to convince people, because also people will believe what they want to believe. So I love this, and it's very noble of you, but you must follow what you want to do. Will you do that?
Yes.
Glow, thank you so much for your time. Coming up next, Cameron Mudisane is back on Real Talk to face the music. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Real Talk. We live on SABC 3 where the stage is yours. So the first time we met Cameron Mutisiane, we were looking at gender roles in relationships and how they differ from one relationship to the next. Cameron shared his views from the perspective of a man dating other men, but not all of his opinions were received well by everyone, and you're allowed. Let's get a bit of a reminder of what he had to say the last time he was here.
Something which I want to emphasize is the fact that, you know, in gay relationships, there'll always be a top and a bottom. I know that Tishiwa said, you know, they don't like labels, but the reality is that, you know, we do have labels. One thing I've learned is that bottoms like asking, are you top or bottom? Tops don't ask that. They just tell you, I'm top, and it ends there. And you just have to take it or leave it.
So do you...
And then obviously you do find that...
You're speaking on behalf of yourself. I don't want everyone who's gay is like, who are la putu, what nonsense. So are you speaking on behalf of yourself, or is this how it generally goes?
You know, I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
I feel like I'm in a place where I think patriarchy doesn't exist in gay relationships because there's two of you. Meanwhile, you're out here and you're flying the flag.
You know, what's the biggest challenge which you're faced with as gay men?
Yeah.
Most of our relationships don't last.
Really?
It's a fact.
Okay, so there were quite a number of people who disagreed with Cam's point of view, and one of this is Ngwako Sirepi, who joins Cameron and I. Cameron, I think the one thing that still shocked me when you left was the fact that you said most gay relationships don't last, right? I am giving you an opportunity. Do you want to change that statement? Because you actually made me go and sit at home and count all of my gay friends who have lasted, who are in love. And that's saying, I'm not a racist. I had three black people at my wedding. It means you are a racist if you're counting. So if I'm counting the gay relationships in my life, I'm uneasy about that.
Yeah, I hear you, Anele. It is a challenge that we mostly face as, especially as young black gay people, in terms of maintaining or sustaining long-lasting relationships. Because obviously there are many things that we grapple with in terms of society not accepting us, you know, in terms of you know, family as well. You know, this gay thing, you know, some people see it as a deviant. Therefore, it's very difficult for a lot of people to be out there to say, you know, I'm gay and this is my partner. Hence, you find that people go online. For example, you do find people on apps like Grindr.
But why do you think that they don't last?
It's as I was telling you, it's how we're raised. The fact that we don't have positive role models to look up to. Okay. And also society as well, in terms of the church. You know, people speaking out against us as being homosexual, saying that we're going to go to hell. So people always try to navigate between doing what is expected from society and also being different, being the other in society as such.
Okay. Ngwako, what are your views of this?
Because for me, I feel what he's saying, he might be right in his... Remember, we're in the environment that is in and the people that he hangs out with, or what he's exposed to. He might be true in that sense. But however, there are no stats that prove him otherwise or what I'm going to say otherwise. It's just a matter of how exposed you are as a human being. Also, understanding the eventualities that involve, that are around gay people as a fact, understand? Because it's not like heterosexual people where we can literally go... I'll give you an example. Where States SA can just say, okay, cool, we're going to count relationships now in the gay society. We're going to go to Melusi, we're going to go to Mwako, we're going to go to whoever.
We're going to go to Kara.
Exactly my point.
We're going to go to Divesh.
Yeah, so there is no such. So we can't sit and say, oh, it doesn't last or it lasts or whatever the case may be. There are no factual fact or fact around it. However, where I stand is the fact that like we mustn't make our reality other people's reality.
Okay, so now here we go. Cameron, you call yourself an activist, right? As an activist, surely then he is allowed his strong opinion on what his experience of being a gay person is. But does the problem come when he wants to speak on behalf of gay people?
For me, the problem comes when he wants to speak on behalf of gay people. Yeah. Because what he says, what he answered with, remember, he's seen as a very someone someone who's respected in the community. Let me put it like that. Whatever he says, some people may take it as fact, some people might take it as opinion, some people might. As I've said earlier, there are no stats that can prove him otherwise.
Cam, did you see the backlash towards you after the last time you were here?
Yeah, I did. Obviously see it on Twitter and that. But something which in terms of how I want to qualify it as well, something which is quite interesting is the fact that when you compare the black gay relationships to our white counterparts, you tend to see that, with our white counterparts, they tend to have much more longer lasting relationships. And it's because at times,
but that can be said of heterosexual relationships as well. Because you must remember, black men are forever dogged about not being able to be faithful to women and all that. So that's just not something, a view that is isolated to just gay relationships. And that's a stigma we're also trying to get rid of, which is why I'm annoyed by things of black love, because there's no such thing as black love, it's just love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But then something else, as I was trying to expand on my point, is the fact that with us as young black gay men, we try to be monogamous in our relationships. And those values, they come from heteronormative relationships, which at times might actually be problematic. And then you go to our white counterparts who've been in like 20, 30 relationships, and you find that they tend to be more open. And with us as young black gay men, we tend to close our relationships. And that's when the cheating comes in, the infidelity, and we're not really necessarily being compatible as a couple, which obviously leads to our demise of our relationships.
For me, I just feel like his views, as I've said earlier, I just feel like they are narrow in the way he puts them, because as I've said, he mustn't make his reality other people's realities as well. And the fact that he compared the white and the black, for me, that's very, very narrow as well, in a sense that what is out there is not necessarily what is the fact, basically. Let me put it like that. You can't literally say, the white relationships last longer as compared to the black relationships. That, for me, it's just a... It's
assumption?
It's an assumption, you understand? Just because you've seen Gert and another guy in your hand, then you presume, just because they've been together for longer, then that means their relationships, in that sense, they last for longer. First and foremost, you are not with them every day. You don't know what goes on in their relationship. That's a first point.
You don't know if they've got an open relationship. You don't know if they break up once a week.
Yeah. Secondly, you can't necessarily put it like, oh my gosh, white relationships are working because of those that one thing that you've seen somewhere else. You need to make sure you understand before you make your opinion a fact or make it as a gospel. You need to also understand where other people are coming from. It's not a norm. You understand?
Cameron, you said something. You said there are certain characteristics that you take from heterosexual relationships which you are raised and they're instilled in you, which become problematic for you inside in homosexual relationships. You said that, right?
Yeah.
I understood you right. But then when you were here the last time, you spoke about bottoms and tops, and there's always this and there's always that. But that identifying of sexual roles alone, that's a patriarchal thing. That's a heterosexual thing that you then are dragging into your gay relationships.
Yeah, exactly. I dragged it in because that's what I know. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I choose to live personally in my relationships. You know what? As gay people, we are not a homogeneous group. We're all different. We want different things. And something else to counter his argument. The thing about us and men sleeping with other men, we're almost like a hidden population. There isn't enough data to actually say these are the actual facts in terms of the numbers of people who are...
But that's what he was saying.
Exactly. So it's mainly based on perception, on what you see around you. That's what we...
Okay.
That's what we
I have to go to an ad break.
But there's no evidence to back that up.
Okay, we're going to go to an ad break. I'm already over. Hold it here. We'll carry this on when we come back. We're going to get ready to wrap up sexuality, identity. Just make sure you come back after the break. No, I'll allow you guys. And welcome back. When we went to an ad break, Ngwako, you wanted to say something to combat what Cameron was saying.
Yeah, another issue with this, when I said reality, don't say make your reality other people's reality. We need to also keep in mind that within the gay community itself, there are people who are out and then there are people who are not out. Yes. You understand? With that, when this nation that is out, or should I say the other community that is out, their relationships are a common thing that we know about. Yes. Then on this other side that people are not out, it's something that you will never even know about. Yeah. So that's why sometimes when you make your assumptions or your opinion with regards to, oh, this relationships don't last, this lasts, and whatever, you also need to keep in mind that there's this and there's that. And so there's the out gay community, there's the in the closet community, understand? And then in between there's bisexuals as well. Bisexual some of them are in relationships with gay men, either out or in the closet. Yeah. So we also need to be cognizant of that whenever we make an opinion. For me, I just feel like with that opinion, it doesn't sit well with them because there's a lot of loopholes with the opinion that you can literally see that this is not the general, this is not the gospel, this is not the general. I
wanted to take your opinion while it's hot. Listen, I'm not rude. There is an extra guest here. His name is Debucho. You also wanted to join in the conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Let's get into it. Which side are you on here? Are you backing Cameron or are you backing Nwako?
Allow me to be neutral.
I like that. But then tell us why you are neutral.
The reason I'm neutral, I'm listening to both sides. And they have their facts and opinion based on their observation, based on their experiences and their exposure. And you can only talk about what you have seen, touched, heard, and experienced. So they have a right to express how they've expressed themselves. But in my knowledge and experience, I've seen and I've have a lot of friends around me who have had long relationships. And I've had long relationships myself, 9 years, 10 years, 8 years, you know, so I take it as a norm that people can have long relationships, even within the gay society.
So you are an openly gay reverend?
I'm openly gay, and I am a reverend.
Yeah, and you are a reverend. Okay, you're actually very right. Those things are in isolation, actually.
Not really. Yeah. They look like from a distance like they're conflicting, but with understanding they conflate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So inside of gay relationships then, let's unpack what Cameron believes about. So you've already unpacked the fact that, you know, gay relationships don't last. You are combating that. You say that's not true. But let's talk about those patriarchal roles that we find that exist in gay relationships that we assume don't.
I had the word top and I had the word bottom. Is that what you mean from my distinguished guest in Cameroon? I think somehow because of how we're socialized, what is immediate is heteronormative role models. And inadvertently, we all have adopted that, you know, there is maybe a father, a mother, a top, a bottom, a male, a female. Those are roles. But in between roles, remember that there's also fluidity.
Which is what the professor was saying.
There's fluidity. Human beings evolve. And with exposure and with understanding themselves, there is that opportunity where they move from one thing to the other. So for me, there is no concrete, cast in chase. You know that, oh, this is it and that's it and no others. But also, people are allowed to leave their roles as they feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, to relate with anybody, it's a very private and a personal situation.
Okay, so there's a voice note, and then Gwako, I'm going to come to you. Please roll it.
Anele, Cameron is so right. He is so right. He is so right. I actually cut it when you were about to talk about tops and bottoms. I think a lot of gay people in the gay community don't want to talk about tops and bottoms. It's a true reality. It's something which is there. Tops dominate and bottoms don't. gay relationships don't last. It's a true reality. But I guess maybe he can't explain it properly. But if you would do your own research, it's a true reality. It is very much true. Maybe the guy that's sitting next to him right now, if you'd ask him how many relationships have lasted, he's not going to give you a straight question. But if we face reality and really be honest to us, there's a problem in the gay community when it comes to gay relationships. Because there's so much infidelity. There's so much infidelity. People have multiple partners. So I am on his side 101%.
Welcome.
Okay, what I wanted to emphasize, Eli, is that while he hosts a show called I Was in the Closet, so on that show, what I learned, I produced the show. What I learned on that show is the fact that this top, bottom, verse, whatever, it's something that you say, that you feel, when you meet Cameron, like, he's bottom, then I'll be the top. These things,
so it's something you mold about yourself because you're so desperate for the relationship. Which it happens in heterosexual relationships as well, guys, where we mold ourselves to be like, okay, he wants me to be a quiet girl who cooks. That's what I want to be.
So this guy came through, he was like, you know what, in all relationships that I've been in, I always check what the other person is mostly comfortable with. If it's bottom, I'll be the top. I'll go and bottom for...
Which is then why they don't last, not necessarily
I'll
that
go
they
and bottom somewhere else. You understand what I mean? So the thing sometimes, it's very... it's like it's cagey. You understand what I mean? It's not even... It doesn't have legs to stand on because... out when they are with their friends, they'll be like, no, I'm bottom. So tomorrow when they are with their friends, I'm top. Tomorrow when I'm this. So they pick and change these roles.
But then why is this fluidity not working in favor? Because Angithi, you were saying, and like Professor was saying, that we need to allow people to be who they want in the fluidity. But if you are saying that there is fluidity, why is it all of a sudden wrong in that regard?
Can I just come in there? The problem is that people don't know what they want. The problem is that if you can't define yourself, the thing is, me, myself, and I know myself. I know what I want. I know that, you know what, this is what I want. And if something I don't want, it's my way or the highway. That's how I take it. The thing is, the problem with most times, you try to fit into an environment. That's what actually causes the problem in terms of us having sustainable and long-lasting relationships. By the way, how many relationships have you had which have actually lasted in your lifetime, and how long was it? My longest relationship was about 4 years. Let's share yours.
Mine was 7. 2 of them were 7, actually.
Are you still in it?
1, I'm still in it.
1 is still, and you're going on your 7th year. So then, up until now, it's lasting.
Exactly, but in gay terms, you know, we normally talk about this. Like, you know, if it lasts over a year, we normally say, wow, that's actually an achievement. Because in most relationships, last about 3 months, even 2 weeks after, it's gone. You know,
okay,
it's over.
So I think, thank you for your time, guys, and your opinions, but I just also feel like it's okay to disagree. I don't think, like we're saying, if we're going to be fluid and allow people to be fluid, maybe we should also be fluid in what it is that we believe in. Thank you so much to our guests today, Professor Divya Bana, Gloma Katsi, Cameron Mudisane, Reverend Teboho Muema, as well as Nwako Serepi. Fascinating conversation. That's what we leave it for today. Tomorrow, we're tapping into our creative sides as we look at trends and fashion to wrap up the week. Plus, freshly ground Zolani Maola is going to be here with that voice. Do not miss it. Your Isidingo is coming up next. Stay for it.